In the heart of a lush, green bamboo forest, there lived a panda named Po. Now, Po wasn't just any panda. He was, to put it mildly, the laziest panda in the entire forest. His days were a predictable cycle of munching on bamboo, finding the perfect sunbeam for a nap. And then, you guessed it, more napping. While other pandas practiced climbing, foraged for the tastiest shoots, or helped maintain the clearings, Po could usually be found snoozing in a bamboo grove, a half-eaten stalk dangling from his paw. Why? Rush. He'd often mumble to anyone who'd listen. The bamboo isn't going anywhere, and napping is an art form. The elder pandas would shake their heads, whispering concerns about Po's lack of discipline. The younger pandas just found it funny, nicknaming him the professional dreamer. Po didn't mind. He was perfectly happy in his lazy, comfortable world. He believed life was meant to be enjoyed at the slowest pace possible, and for him, that pace was a near standstill. He saw no reason to change. Little did he know, his comfortable world was about to be turned upside down. One season, something strange began to happen. The bamboo, the lifeblood of the forest, started to wither. The once vibrant green stalks turned a sickly yellow, and the leaves became dry and brittle. A creeping blight was slowly consuming their food source. Panic began to ripple through the panda community. The foragers had to travel farther and farther each day, returning with less and less. The elders convened, their faces etched with worry. They spoke of an ancient legendous story about a mystical spring hidden deep within the treacherous Shadow Peak Mountains. The spring-est water was said to hold the power to heal any plant and restore balance to the land. But the journey was long and perilous, requiring strength, agility, and unwavering determination. It was a journey for the most disciplined and capable pandas, a path no one had dared to tread in generations. As the pandas discussed who could possibly undertake such a quest, no one even glanced at Po. He was, after all, still snoozing, completely oblivious to the growing crisis. The turning point for Po came not from a grand speech, but from a small, quiet moment. He woke from one of his marathon naps to the sound of soft crying. It was a young panda cub named Lily, her face streaked with tears, clutching a dry, yellowed bamboo shoot. "There's no more yummy bamboo," she sobbed. "Mommy says the forest is sick." Po looked around and, for the first time, truly saw the fear in his friend's eyes. He saw the tired expressions of the foragers, the deep worry lines on the elders' faces, and the hunger of the little cubs. His heart, usually sleepy and content, felt a sharp pang of guilt. His comfortable world was crumbling, and his laziness had made him blind to it. That evening, as the elders spoke again of the legendary spring and the impossible journey, a voice, surprisingly clear and steady, cut through the worried murmurs. "I'll go," it said. Every head turned. There stood Po, his expression more serious than anyone had ever seen. A wave of disbelief and a few outright snickers swept through the crowd. "You, Po," one of the stronger pandas, scoffed. "You can barely stay awake long enough to finish a meal." Po ignored the laughter. He knew they were right, but something inside him had shifted. He approached the eldest panda, Master Ping. "I know I'm not the strongest or the fastest," Pooh said, his voice filled with a new resolve, "but I am the reason I'm not. I let myself become this way, and now I want to fix it. Please, teach me. I will do whatever it takes." Master Ping looked deep into Po's eyes and saw not the lazy panda of yesterday, but a spark of true determination. He nodded slowly. "The path of discipline is harder than any mountain, Po. It begins tomorrow at sunrise." The next morning, long before the sun's first rays touched the forest floor, Po was awake. It was a struggle. Every muscle in his body screamed to go back to sleep, but he dragged himself to the training ground where Master Ping was waiting. The training was grueling. Master Ping had Po running up steep hills until his lungs burned. He made him practice climbing tall, slippery trees, and Po fell more times than he could count. He was taught to balance on narrow bamboo stalks, his body trembling with effort. Days turned into weeks. Every morning was a battle against his old habits. There were times Po wanted to give up, to collapse into a heap and nap for a week. The taunts of the other pandas didn't help. They saw him stumble and fall, and the doubts were loud and clear. But then he would remember Lily's tear-streaked face. He would picture the withering forest, and he would see the quiet, encouraging nod from Master Ping, who never gave up on him. Slowly, miraculously, a change began. His naps became shorter, replaced by practice. His muscles, once soft and doughy, grew stronger. His clumsy movements became more fluid. He learned to focus his mind, to push past the discomfort, and to find a strength he never knew he possessed. He was no longer just Po, the lazy panda. He was becoming Po, the warrior. He was learning that discipline wasn't about punishment. It was about building a better version of himself. One day, he outclimbed the very panda who had scoffed at him, reaching the top of the tallest tree in the grove. A hush fell over the onlookers. Po didn't gloat. He simply looked towards the distant Shadow Peak Mountains, his gaze steady. Was ready. With a final nod from Master Ping and the hopeful eyes of his community upon him, Po set off. The journey was even harder than his training. He crossed roaring rivers, navigated dense, thorny thickets, and climbed sheer rock faces that tested his newfound strength and resolve. The laziness of his past was a distant memory, replaced by a sharp focus on his mission. He thought not of napping, but of the next handhold. The next step, the next mile. He faced his fears head-on, from the howl of strange creatures in the night to the dizzying heights of the mountain pass. He wasn't just climbing a mountain. He was conquering the mountain of his old self. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he found it. Tucked away in a hidden cove, shimmering with an ethereal light, was the mystical spring. The water bubbled with a pure, life-giving energy. Exhausted but triumphant, Po carefully filled his bamboo canteens. The journey back was just as hard, but now he was driven by a sense of urgency and hope. He moved with a purpose he had never known before, his heart light with the promise of healing. When Po returned to the forest, he was not the same panda who had left. He was leaner, stronger, and his eyes held a quiet confidence. The pandas gathered around, their faces a mixture of awe and disbelief. Without a word, Po went to the sickest part of the bamboo grove and began to pour the spring's magical water onto the roots of the withered plants. At first, nothing happened. A few pandas shook their heads, their hope dwindling, but Po stood firm, his faith unwavering. Then, a single leaf unfurled, a vibrant, healthy green. A gasp went through the crowd. Soon, another leaf, then a whole stalk, began to revive. A wave of green spread through the grove, the blight receding as if chased away by a miracle. The forest was coming back to life. A deafening cheer erupted. The pandas lifted Po onto their shoulders, chanting his name. A was no longer Po, the professional dreamer. He was Po, the hero who saved them all. Lily, the little cub, ran up and hugged his leg, holding a fresh, juicy bamboo shoot. In the days that followed, the forest thrived, healthier than ever before. But the biggest change wasn't in the bamboo, it was in Po. He still enjoyed a good nap, but it was no longer the center of his world. He woke up early, helped with the foraging, taught the young cubs the climbing techniques he had learned, and became a respected member of the community. He had discovered that true happiness wasn't found in avoiding effort, but in the satisfaction of accomplishing something meaningful. He learned that discipline wasn't a cage, but a key that unlocked his true potential. Po's story became a legend in itself, a tale told to every new generation of pandas. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed Po's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of inspiration.